Now, if you've been hearing that the Sarasota real estate market is crashing, I want you to stay with me for a few minutes because the truth is a lot more interesting than the headlines. Yes, the prices are adjusting. And yes, buyers have the upper hand right now. But later in the video, I'm going to actually explain to you why the number of homes actually selling is higher than people realize and why that matters if you're a homeowner or even thinking about making a move. Because what's happening here in Sarasota right now, it isn't a collapse. It's more of a fundamental change in how residential real estate is moving today, and very likely how we're going to experience it moving into the future. And once you understand who's buying, who's not, and why, the market starts to make a lot more sense. All right, so the first thing I want to clear up right now is with just under 6 months of inventory here in Sarasota County, this is not a normalized market. By very definition, we are squarely in a buyer's market. And what that means is that buyers are the ones that are driving negotiations, buyers are choosing terms, and buyers are deciding which homes sell and which ones don't. That does not mean that the market is broken. It means that the power dynamic has changed in today's market. Now, this is where a lot of the confusion comes from. People see softening and assume that the demand has basically disappeared in a local market. But the real imbalance right now is in the supply. We have more than 5,000 homes for sale actively across Sarasota County. And when buyers suddenly have real choices, they slow down, they start to compare, and they negotiate. And that, more than anything, is what puts pressure on pricing. And just for a little context, if you haven't met me, I'm Grabowski. I work with homeowners throughout Sarasota County. And a big part of what I do is I help people make sense of a market when the headlines don't always line up with what we're actually happening and what we're seeing here on the ground. So this is why I focus less on what the headline prices are and more on a price per square foot. Now, on a year-over-year basis, price per square foot is down. That tells us that buyers aren't stretching the way they used to. They're paying closer to a true market value for the property. And for homeowners, this is extremely important. Home prices that are based on what used to work, they're sitting on the market. And home prices that are based on today's reality are the ones that are selling, and they're selling relatively quickly. Now, here's the part that most people don't expect. Even in a buyer's market, the number of homes selling is actually up significantly compared to the past. So buyers, they haven't disappeared. They're just becoming a lot more selective. They're becoming more patient and a lot more strategic. This is not a frozen market. It's more of a thoughtful one from a buyer's perspective. Now, one of the biggest changes happening right now is who's actually participating in the market, who the buyers are. Now, the average first-time home buyer is now over 40 years old across the country, and that is the highest that's ever been recorded. The younger buyers, they simply are not getting in the market the way previous generations did. And that starts to change demand, affordability pressure, and our long-term absorption. At the same time, many long-term homeowners with significant equity, they're just choosing not to sell. They are holding on to the property longer than we've seen from past generations, more than they ever did. And that is another fundamental change in how housing supply moves or doesn't throughout the marketplace. There's also a lot of discussion right now about mortgage rates coming down. But here's the reality, guys. Mortgage rates are not driven by the Fed as much as people think that they are. Mortgage rates are far more closely tied to the 10-year Treasury and investor confidence in the U.S. economy. Truth is, rates have really stayed within about 1% for over 3 years now. And there is really no strong signal that any meaningful relief is coming anytime soon. And that's why affordability remains a challenge, especially for first-time home buyers and those first-time move-up buyers. This is also why about 30% of all transactions today are cash. Many buyers in today's market are just not as sensitive to interest rates because they don't rely on them the same way as other sectors of the market. Most of them are financially capable, they are equity rich, and they are selective with their purchases. So, when you start to put all this together, the takeaway really starts to become pretty simple. Sarasota isn't crashing, but the rules have changed. We are squarely in a buyer's market that is driven by supply, affordability, and a change in buyer behavior, not a lack of activity. Homes are selling, the demand is real, but pricing, presentation, and strategy matter more than ever for homeowners that are selling in today's market, more than we've seen in years. Now, for those of you guys who don't know me, my name is Ed Grabowski. I work primarily with homeowners across Sarasota County, helping them to navigate what's become a lot more of a nuanced market than it used to be. I also work with buyers who value experience, discretion, and a clear understanding of how the market really functions, especially in higher value segments where the details really matter. Now, if you're trying to decide what to do next, whether that's selling, holding, or simply trying to get an understanding where you stand, I'm always happy to be a resource for you. And if you're curious about how this market is affecting a specific price range, a part of Sarasota, drop a comment below. I want you to know that I read them and I'll respond to them to help you get a better understanding of the market. Now, guys, I want you to know that I appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. If you have any questions, as I said before, don't hesitate to drop a comment below. I appreciate your time today, and I look forward to helping you have a better real estate experience. Take care, and we'll talk to you soon.